This morning started with stocks on the back foot. The trade talks not really progressing, and with the new tariffs looming on Friday that the US are imposing on China from 10% to 25%, sentiment very much to the downside here in a risk-off feel to the markets. The DAX leading the way this morning, breaking through this trend line. If that's to remain under there, then I'll be keeping an eye on the low that we had from a couple of days ago as a next area of support. If things are to turn around, maybe on the US cash open and sentiment improves, or Trump comes out and tweets something new, you would want to only really get involved to maybe to get long, I would say, above what was the previous low, where we started the breakdown early this morning around 7 a.m. UK time. If that's to hold as an area of resistance, I think it wouldn't be too wise to get long before that. Looking at the US market, equities did push lower in correlation with that DAX move, and we did make a new low for the week. However, we have snapped back, and of course on the longer term chart, that level is massively important. Was the high from the 21st of March. We did then break through a few days later, only to find support once and twice today, and we have pushed higher since then. Worth keeping an eye on how we close today in the week. Every time, in recent time I should say, we've had a dip, you can see any failure to make a new low from those the first test lower has seen a real push to, what then led to all-time highs. So I'd be keeping an eye exactly how we finish the day, especially considering the recent trend for this market. Looking more intraday levels to be aware of, 2880 to the upside for the S&P on the futures was previous resistance, and then before that support, before that breakdown. That would be my line in the sand initially for the bulls and the bears. Yesterday I had it marked up around 29.02, and it just could never get above that point to get exciting. Elsewhere, looking at oil, worth having this trend line on here, going back to the low that we had back on Monday. On Monday, yes. You can see we've had 3 strong tests of that. Would mark up around on future 61.50 to the upside. The R1 and the high that we had back on the 7th of May as well would be somewhere that I'd be keen to keep an eye on. This market perhaps going sideways last couple of days. DOE more bullish than anything yesterday. Might have just saved it for a while. But a break of that trend line, I wouldn't be too surprised to see things push lower. Another market of interest with a trend line that acted pretty strongly this morning and the previous days. You can see the gold futures holding, there you go, early this morning, very strong retest of that. So I'll be keeping an eye on that for what would be the 5th test, and a breakdown of that. I'll be looking for 1270, 80 to get a real strong follow through. On this longer term chart, 1290 still remains a very key level, and another failed test to close back above that. So where we close the week, not just today, but where we close the week, will be important to see whether actually this double bottom that we made from the 23rd and the 2nd can get tested again, or do we push higher above 1290 and this market starts to grind higher. Quick look over the calendar for the remainder of the session, likely to be a relatively quiet one. Let me just bring up the correct calendar. Give me 1 second. Just bring that here. Going to be relatively quiet for the remainder of the day. We do have a bit of data coming out at 1:30, which could move things, but other than that, expecting rather range bound morning led by what US equities decide to do.